So on Monday, Lee spoke about uncertainty as really being our fundamental reality, and yet how we so often resist and struggle against that. And ways that equanimity practice really invites us into a different relationship with uncertainty and with the unknown, right? A being with an acceptance, a moving with the unfoldment of moment to moment experience rather than fighting or trying to control it. And she brought in, very important for me, the importance of noticing and observing how frequently our minds are planning, anticipating, rehearsing as a way to gain some ground beneath us. And our practice helps us see again and again that true ground cannot be found that way. We learn about how impermanence is the only constant, how everything is changing. We see it when we practice. As soon as I think maybe I've landed, the moment is gone over the waterfall, as Bill and Susan often say. So we learn about this, but I know for myself, knowing it conceptually and truly getting it in my bones, really becoming at peace with how things are, is a lifelong process. We all fight change. We all resist the winds of pain and discomfort and loss, or we want the moment to stay just so we can get a little bit of that ground, or a little sureness, or even a little bit of a stable sense of self instead of feeling so blown about. And I know we name this a lot, but it always feels important to acknowledge that when so much is changing around us in really big ways, it can make it even harder to be with the little changes. And yet, even more important that we build that capacity and skill. So, I wanted to share about a study that some of you may know about. My brother shared with me recently that I think speaks to the kind of solidity and steadiness, the protection that true equanimity can bring. Kind of that protection of really being aligned in wisdom and acceptance, aligned with the truth of constant, unpredictable change. So the biosphere 2 was existed in between 1987 and 1991, was a science research facility in Arizona. And it really was a center, a focus of research, exploration to learn about the Earth and the Earth's systems, and to conduct experiments that wouldn't harm the Earth. And so they kind of isolated experiments in a way that they couldn't do very often. And one of them was trying to see what would happen if they grew trees inside this biosphere facility. If they gave the trees like absolutely optimal conditions for growth. And what they found is these protected trees, they grew much, much more rapidly than they would kind of outside in harsher conditions. And yet, when they grew to a certain height and reached a certain maturation, they would topple over, they would fall. And the scientists were really confused by this until they realized they forgot to include the natural element of wind. Wind. Trees need wind to blow against them. It actually helps their root systems grow deeper, and that supports the tree as it grows. And it actually makes the wood stronger as well. And I just wanted to offer this as a metaphor as we're working with equanimity, because it really helps me to shift and imagine, oh, wait, I actually need all these wins. Change, unpredictability, the 8 worldly winds of pleasure and pain and gain and loss, praise and blame, fame and disrepute. all that struggle and unknown. I need that to really understand how things are and to become more deeply rooted in the Dharma. There's a quote by William Arthur Ward. He says, "Adapt yourself to change as the willow tree adapts itself to the weather. When the harsh winds of circumstance sweep across the landscape of your life, bow gracefully, bend gently, adapt graciously. You are wise to study well the ways of the willow. In the face of change, in the throes of adversity, in the midst of conflict and crisis, the willow willingly bends its branches, but refuses to release its roots." And of course, right, the trees, just like us, they don't know which way the wind is going to blow, but can allow themselves to move with it and learn from it. Feels similar to the no mud, no lotus saying, no wind, no roots. And so we can hold this, right? We're growing our tree, our being, our wisdom, our compassion. We can't anticipate actually what's going to arise in any moment, internally or externally. Will they be light breezes? Will they be strong winds? Um, we know that balance will become difficult in those times and we will be blown about. But yeah, to view the winds not as a problem or something to avoid or transcend, or even to kind of shift from what I often wish, right? Oh, I wish life could be easy and peaceful and protected in its conditions all the time, like that biosphere. And instead to really welcoming and embracing all that we learn from how things are. And so there is that kind of question with equanimity practice of learning to trust the stability of equanimity rather than our habitual ways of seeking ground, right? Of all that trying to plan and control and manage and solidify. And the image of the tree is helpful for me in terms of just that duality, right? Of kind of, can I allow, can I flow with and bend with, not fight with what's happening, but also be really rooted in truth and in clarity and peace. And I'm sure everyone here has met someone and maybe can call to mind or kind of call in their energy. Someone who is really calm and has that kind of steady, gentle fortitude while still being present and open hearted no matter what's happening. Right? They don't check out, they don't become robotic, they don't become reactive and kind of panicky or angry or managerial. And I was thinking also about this. Sorry. Right. So I was curious, if we could be thinking about how we can use this image and grow stronger and wiser through the winds of change in our lives and what that would look like, right? What that would look like on the cushion in our own minds and hearts, and what that would look like in our relationships, what that would look like in our world if we could stay rooted in that kind of clear seeing and open heartedness, if we also stayed rooted in our ethical practice, non harm, non judgment, non self identification when the winds were blowing. Just one small example. I see this certainly on the cushion, but out in my life, some of you know I'm doing helping to lead more of these trainings. I'm a therapist, and there are these trainings that in the model that I work with. And the trainings are really intense and really emotional. And we put a lot of energy, the staff, into creating a safe container, right? Just like we do here. We try to create a safe container, which is really important. We do that when we set up our practice, the holding environment. It's not that we don't try to create some favorable conditions. And so in these trainings, right, we do that. We put a lot of energy into it. And I have learned over the last 6 years doing this, there is no way to avoid people getting hurt in these trainings, right? Or things feeling really rocky and kind of all those relational ruptures that can happen. And what I've seen again and again is that when we hit bumps, if we can kind of stay connected internally and externally and stay open hearted and present and flow with it, not fight it, that we come through it much, much stronger, kind of like those trees. Our roots are more trustworthy, our relational roots. We can lean a bit more deeply in one direction or the other without snapping from that point forward. And so, this is kind of, to me, that Dhamma resilience that we're building internally and hopefully in our world and in our relationships. And so, just to come back to this quote, you are wise to study well the ways of the willow. In the face of change, in the throes of adversity, in the midst of conflict and crisis, the willow willingly bends its branches but refuses to release its roots. Mm. Thank you so much for your attention. Mm. Let's really intentionally, with some patience, shift to the practice, formal practice. And always the invitation is to open up the body in whatever way feels right. Might even mean standing and kind of shaking out, airing out a little bit, or maybe some gentle stretches with the neck and shoulders, the side body. Including the back of the body, sometimes a little bit of that rounding and then opening of the chest can be helpful. Mm. Maybe allowing the attention to move down to the belly, softening a bit, softening the belly, allowing the torso to sway a little, to feel for that sense of balance, rootedness. Posture where the shoulders and the muscles in the face can soften as much as possible. Maybe allow the hands just to rest on the legs or maybe in the lap, one on top of the other. Allow the breath also to support that opening and settling process. Sometimes helpful just to notice the coolness and the energizing nature of the in-breath. A reminder of our aliveness. And the soothing energy of the out breath that can allow our bones, our muscles to just settle a little bit more and feel that ground and earth beneath us, even as things move. And maybe as we sit together, even in moments as things move through in the mind and heart. Maybe you actually sway a little bit, like the tree, kind of letting ourselves move with, while feeling that connection to the earth. If it helps, you can stay with that image of a tree for the practice, coming back to that, or maybe your anchor wants to be the breath or sounds, the sensations of the hands resting, or perhaps a phrase. May I be with this moment just as it is. And can we notice what's moving through moment to moment? Sounds, sensations, thoughts, feelings. Can we move with and allow? Just like wind through the branches of the trees. so much. Thanks for your practice and your presence.